Welcome to Worth the War. My name is Kimmy. The purpose of this channel is rethinking love and avoiding abuse. If you think we can do a better job with love and relationship than we're doing in the modern culture, then you found the exact right channel. We have a great topic for today's video. It's how being thankful kills discontent in our relationship. This will apply to every relationship that you have: intimate partner relationships, work, family, people in the neighborhood. One of the things that is really hard about, especially around Thanksgiving here in the States, everyone's talking about these ideas of thankful attitudes, how we should live our lives in this breath of thankfulness. The problem is often what's left out is, how does that actually work? What is the change between someone who lives their life and someone who lives their life in a thankful attitude? So today we're going to talk about 4 practical ways that you can take on a thankful mindset. I actually call it a language of thankfulness in your life, so that your relationships will benefit, and you'll see that the negativity, criticism, the discontent that lives in our relationships starts to slowly lessen and lessen until eventually what you really have is an attitude of thankfulness. So let's dig right into the content. The first thing you can do, and it's going to sound really simple, but I promise you it is a huge shift in the way that we approach our day, is what we do, the habits that we have in those first few seconds of consciousness each day. If we wake up and the first thing we do, if we think about the things that we have, our body, our breath, the things and the projects that we have before us, the people who may or may not be around us in that day, we have much to be thankful for. And if we can actually recount a few of those before we start going down the rabbit hole of all the things that we need to get done, or all the things that need to fall in line, or all the people who may or may not come through for us that day, we're going to start out our day in a different way than we normally do. And I can promise you, if before your feet hit the ground, you recount the things that are truly wonderful in your life, every step you take will be going in a different direction than it would if you were feeling the stress of the day ahead. So start with the mindset you start your day with. Make those first few thoughts about what you're grateful about, and the negativity is going to have a whole lot harder time getting in. The second thing you can do to create a language of thankfulness throughout your day that really eradicates discontent is a little bit harder. The first habit's pretty simple. It's in your own head. Nobody else even knows you're doing it. It's something you do before your feet hit the ground. The second one's just a little bit rougher, because it's essentially looking at the people in your life and finding the good in them. And as we all know, that can be really complex, because we are a mixture of great things and awful things all together. We are ourselves, the people in our life are, and sometimes finding the good in people isn't as easy as it should be. Our hearts tend to slide toward negativity. We don't really want to admit that, but they do. We tend to look at the things where people don't meet our needs or where people hurt our feelings. For some reason, those are just these huge things that we look at. And that language of gratefulness, the language of enjoying our lives with other people, really comes from us taking a step back and looking at the people. Think about your neighbors, think about your friends, your intimate partners, people in your family. Stepping back and really thinking about what's good in them. It sounds simple, it sounds simplistic. It is not. It is actually taking a person into pieces and understanding there are parts of them that have hurt you, and there are parts of them that are wonderful and admirable. And we then have to make a conscious and intentional choice to look at the good. The first thing that you can probably do is think about things that are relatively external, and there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes finding the good in someone, if that's all you can find, are externals. It could be a sense of humor that you enjoy, it could be a smile, it could be that they make really great food, or they have really interesting conversation. It doesn't have to be a heart issue that we find to look for the good. And truthfully, there are going to be people in our lives that we can't find a heart issue that we're really going to be able to grasp onto and say that's a great quality. But we can find things that are good in them. We don't necessarily have to have people in our lives, in our circle, that all meet the qualifications that we have for a good person. But we can still have peaceful and thankful attitudes about them if we take the time to separate that out. Now, if you do that and you think about all the externals and you still can't find anything good, then it's time for a little step back again in self-examination. What are you still holding on to? What kind of hurts do you have? What kind of issues do you have that you literally can't even find a good thing in this person? When we kind of do that, it actually clears the decks for us. We may have to actually sit back, go through those things, decide if it needs to be covered or it doesn't, handle our life in a way that says if something still gets stuck and we can't find anything good in someone, there may be something we need to handle, even if it's only just letting it go within ourselves, so that when that internal dialogue comes up, it no longer becomes a blocking point for our ability to live life peacefully with people. What's really great is that once you do this inventory and you deal with what needs to get dealt with, when you start to see the shift in the way that you start to see people, and you realize that that shift actually takes out so much toxicity of your life, where you spend your time focusing on where people have failed you, where they hurt your feelings, where they aren't what they should be, and you realize that you gave people so much power over your life and over your mindset that didn't even know they had it, didn't even really choose to exercise it. You allowed yourself to live in a toxic place because you wanted to see what people weren't instead of what they are. And once you make that shift, thankfulness becomes a language that is so much easier to speak. The third thing you can do actually has two parts, and it's a really practical step in changing our mindset and creating a life that is free of a lot of negativity and discontent. The first thing is keep a very close watch on your inner dialogue. Start with people that are more external to your life, maybe a work colleague, somebody that you hang out with regularly. Probably wouldn't be the best person to start with. And really consider what your thought life is on them. Are you focusing on the good? Do you find yourself rolling your eyes in your head thinking, oh, there they go again, or wow, they are just horrible people, or whatever that inner dialogue is? Think about it and realize if you can catch yourself in a negative cycle and you start to notice that the way you think about people actually greatly affects who you see them to be and how you feel about them, you're well on your way to being able to get to the more important and intimate relationships of your life, and really being able to take control of being intentional and grateful for good points, and really being more forgiving and full of grace for those things that are imperfect about the people that we love and we spend our lives with. A really simple way of approaching that is understanding that we institutionalize our perspectives of people by our thought life. So we get a lot of control over how we feel about someone, and certainly how we're going to want to treat them by thinking about how we consider them. The last step of creating a mindset of thankfulness, I'm not going to lie, is definitely going to be the most challenging. It's in expectations. Expectations live in the space between what we want someone to be and what they actually are. And when we understand that this space is filled with things that will either allow us to be thankful and grateful and healthy and thriving in our relationships, or critical and negative and isolated, we will have great power over our thankfulness and our lives and relationships in general. No matter what the relationship is, that space between, we will either fill it with understanding that people are not always going to understand our feelings, but small things should not be assigned big value. In your life, don't assign whether they love you or respect you based on issues like where you parked the car, how much money you spent on groceries last week, or if they put the toilet seat down. When it comes to relationships, we have to assign big value things to big value things. Do they respect you? Are they kind to you? Do they consider you? So be very careful not to assign big values to small things. To put it really simply, we need to learn when to let go of things. If we really want to have a language of thankfulness in our relationships and to live a life of gratefulness, we need to be able to look for the good in people and let go of the small things. If this video is really challenging for you, especially this last part about being able to release some of the space between, I'm going to link down below a video that we put together about victimhood identity and about how it messes with our relationship. It may be a really helpful piece to slide in here. I think it's important for us to realize that sometimes we can paint ourselves as a victim in our relationships, and that will never get us to a place of thankfulness. I am so grateful that you took the time to work through this video with me. I really think and I hope that will be of use to you or someone you can share it with. Our goal is to help people avoid abuse and to have healthy and thriving relationships. I hope you'll join our community by liking and subscribing, and you can also find us on other social media outlets down below. Thanks for being here and have a wonderful day.